push into the AFC East, man. Let's break down some of these AFC East drafts. First up, we got the Buffalo Bills, man. They drafted my guy Jake Fromm. I like that pick personally. And they didn't have a first round pick, but their first pick that they had was AJ Espinoza, and they also picked Zach Moss out of Utah. So, Bryce, man, what do you think about the Bills and what they did?
Man, I love what the Bills were able to pull off. I mean, for them not to have a first round pick and end up with a guy like Epinesa, who I had ranked in the top 25. Honestly, I think I had him at 25 on the big board. I mean, that's an impressive pick. Zach Moss went a little earlier than I expected, but Zach Moss is a dog, man. He's a running back. I mean, what Bills had Frank Gore and Marshawn Lynch once before. Zach Moss is in that type of mold, man. He's coming to run you over. He can get around you with some wiggle, but he's not looking to do that. Gabriel Davis is one of those guys where in any other draft, I guarantee you he's looked at as a first round pick. This dude is a dog out of Central Florida. A ton of receivers ended up falling lower than they should have because of how deep this receiver class was. He's definitely one of them. Jake Fromm, a lot of people thought he would have been a top overall pick at one point. And look, you get him in the 5th round. Gotta love that. I mean, you go with a kicker whenever you do that. That's a little questionable in the draft to me. But then you end up with a guy like Isaiah Hodgins. Like I said about this draft, man, I said from the beginning, the best receiver in this draft will not come from the first round. I'm not saying it'll be Isaiah Hodgins is the best receiver in the draft, but you got to look at guys like this that were drafted later because I guarantee you, mark my words, the best receiver from this draft will not have come from the first round.
Scruff, how you feeling about the Bills?
I feel pretty good about the Bills considering they got Stephon Diggs. And that was part of this draft when you consider it. So Stephon Diggs, no matter how good you think about the receivers of this draft, Stephon Diggs is a guy who's going to come in right away and you're going to help your young quarterback. I like the pick to go and get a guy like that. So obviously he's going to be a big plug-in right away, and I think that's going to help their offense. They can actually make a run and potentially win this division. AJ Espinosa, I love to pick because you don't have a first rounder, but you get a first round caliber player. A couple other good picks across the board. I like the running back pick too. Don't think it was early because when your team needs a running back like that, I think they really, really needed a running back. It was a position of need, and I think they probably see him as the potential workhorse now. Everybody that they had in there is pretty much washed up and done with. It's time to bring in another back, but pretty solid. They can win the division. I'll give them B+.
All right, we got a B plus. T, how you feeling about the Bills, bro?
I like it. I'm gonna give him an A. I thought this was a very bold, a very cocky. This is our division. You don't want to play us in cold weather. I thought this was a statement draft. They didn't draft like a team that had all these holes to fill. They drafted like a team that we're good. We're going to get better, and we're going to beat you. And I liked it. Like you said, Epinesa. Everybody had him rated higher than he was drafted. I think he's going to start. You won't be able to move him on that end. I think it was about 280. He's going to be on that end. He's going to be hard to move. He's going to be stout in the run, and he has pass rush ability. Zach Moss, I love the pick because you already have a running back, and we just got a bruiser. We got a 1-2 punch. We'll run the ball down your throat if we have to, and we'll play defense. I love it. That's what happens. Let's play a football, right? We're running the ball. We've seen it change, but cold weather teams, you got to play New England in the snow. You got to play Buffalo in the snow. You might have to play the Jets in the snow. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play defense. I love those 2 picks. They got some receivers. I don't really know too much about the receivers, but I think what they have, John Ross. You got to give them the Diggs pick, right? We didn't mention that. Diggs is essentially their first round pick. So I don't know, man. It's an A. Like, you can't take anything from the Bills. I think the Bills they won 10 games last year, maybe. Whatever it is, the number's going up. I'm high on the Bills coming in next season. I think it'll be smart to take Josh Allen as a fantasy quarterback in a dynasty type situation.
Yeah, man. The Bills, they got Brady's up out the AFC East. The Bills are pushing all their chips on the table. I like this draft. I'm gonna go ahead and give them a B plus. All right, but keeping it moving, man, we're gonna go ahead down to Miami. The Miami Dolphins. Last season they tanked for Tua. They did not end up with the number 1 pick, but they still got Tua at number 5 without having to trade or do anything crazy. They also used another one of their number 1 picks to pick up Austin Jackson, offensive tackle from USC to protect Tua. And their third number 1 pick, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce the name correctly. What did we go with? Noah I last time, cornerback from Auburn. So my man from Auburn, who I'm personally a big fan of. I'm gonna give the first grade on this one, man. I like the Dolphins draft picks, man. I don't see how you can really go wrong with 3 first round picks. If 2 of them hit, I still think it's a good draft. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the Dolphins the A just off the strength of having three first round draft picks. But I'm gonna go ahead and throw it to T, and I want to hear what you think, man.
I get the Dolphins like a B minus. I mean, they got their guy right. So another situation where if Tua works out, the rest of the guys probably don't matter as much. He'll make everyone else better. But you got Tua and you got a tackle. So you drafted a quarterback, you drafted a guy to protect him. You take a guy at corner that's going to get the ball back for your quarterback. So I like the mindset there. Even though you have 2 corners there, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's Byron Jones over there. I'm not sure. They got a
Yep.
lot of money. They got a lot of money tied up at corner, so it's an interesting pick. But so it's a passing league, and you need corners to cover. Get the ball back to your quarterback's the name of the game. I like the draft. Some of the guys down the list, not too sure of. That's more of a Bryce thing, but I like the draft overall. You got Tua, you got protection, and you got a guy that can give them the ball back.
Bryce, man, we know about these guys at the top, man. You want to break down some of these later round picks? What you think about Miami?
Yeah, man. Well, one thing I'll say is, man, Miami is another draft where I love the top half of the draft a lot more than I like the bottom. Uh, One guy I think you should keep an eye out for Miami's draft is big boy Robert Hunt, man. This is one of those dudes. Every few years you get one of these fat boys, man. They got the feet of a much smaller guy. Robert Hunt's one of them dudes, man. I liken him to like a Donald Penn in his prime. They got a ton of money tied into the cornerback, but I think Noah IG can come in and play in that slot immediately. And then yeah, some of the later guys, the favorite of the later guys they got in mind is Curtis Weaver, pass rush out of Boise State. He's got a multitude of pass rush moves. He knows how to mix it up. I had him in my top 100, so see him go 164 is definitely surprising, but great value for the pick. Love what the Dolphins did. I think they got 5 starters total out of this draft. And if you getting 5 starters, possible starters out of the draft, I mean, you had a great haul. So I give him an A minus, solid overall. Excuse me.
Scruff, was it worth it to tank for Tua?
Yeah, well, they didn't really tank. They actually beat the Eagles last season, so yeah, not really a tank job. Actually, beat a playoff team, so they
Yeah.
weren't that bad. They did the right thing, and they got rewarded. So shout out to getting to it. They did the right thing right there. They took my man, even though there were some injury concerns. I would think it was the right pick. They went and they reached for offensive linemen, but that's fine. They got another offensive lineman a little bit later, stocked up, got another corner. Decent draft across the board. I think he did a pretty good job. Got a couple guys they could help. Team that needs a big infusion of talent. So I think, they needed a big draft, and Tua was the right pick. So I'm gonna give him an A.
Yeah, man, pretty simple for the Dolphins. All those first round picks. All right, man. So like we've been saying, the AFC East is wide open. So let's move it on to the Jets. Their first round pick, Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle out of Louisville. They also picked up Denzel Mims in the second round and Ashton Davis in the third round. Bryce, how you feeling about the Jets pick, man?
Well, I mean, if anybody's been following my draft rankings leading up to the draft, I was very high on Mekhi Becton. I had him rated the top tackle, and what I think is a very, very loaded tackle class. But Mekhi Becton, the reason I have him rated the highest is because of his ceiling, man. It's through the roof. He's got one of those ceilings like legends, like a Willie Roaf type of ceiling. Mainly because of his mammoth size. You're talking about 6'7", 360. Just getting around him is hard to do. The dude is huge and he has extreme power in his hands. I mean, you see this guy throwing defensive linemen with one hand routinely. So I love that pick. I love that pick from him. I gave him a B overall in the draft because I wasn't a huge fan of the later picks. I did like them coming back and grabbing Bryce Hall. I do think Denzel Mims and Ashton Davis could both be players at the next level, but I'm not too high on LaMichael Pirine or Jabari Zuniga, although a lot of people in this pre-draft process were. So I mean, I give him a solid B plus, and I think we're getting Mekhi Becton if he reaches the ceiling. I think he could. I mean, this draft easily turns into an A for them.
Scruff, how you feeling about the Jets?
I'm gonna go ahead and give credit where credit is due here. Credit Joe Douglas, the GM of the Jets, former member of the front office of the Eagles. He did a hell of a job. I'm gonna give them an A plus. I think they had the best draft of anybody that we're going to be covering today. When you talk about value, I love value. When you get a guy like Mekhi Becton in the with the 11th pick, the guy's pretty much top 5 talent. If you know about those Philadelphia teams and you know about those Baltimore Ravens teams, that's where Joe Douglas is from. What do you know about those teams? Trenches. The good teams are building the trenches. Mekhi Becton, he's pretty much a Pro Bowler right there, future Pro Bowler. I like that position. Then you go in and you get a receiver, Denzel Mims, who I think he was a first round quality receiver. I think that was a steal at second round. Now you got a big, fast, freak athlete target for your quarterback. I think the Jets have a shot. Ashton Davis, I like him. I know you said you weren't high on Pirine, but I watched him. I watched a lot of him during college. I think he'll be a decent, productive back. Seems to fit the profile they like. Like the Bilal Powell kind of back. Kind of like a basic meat and potatoes kind of back, but he'll get you your 3-4 yards. Get what you need. Bryce Hall I thought was a good pick. If it pans out, it'll be a genius pick. If it doesn't, it was low risk. Love that pick. He could end up being one of the steals of this draft. So, like I said, A plus for Joe Douglas and the boys at New York.
T, man, how you feeling about the Jets?
I'm not as high on Becton as everybody else, but I do think he's definitely a first round talent. Mims, I like Mims. I really like Mims. I really like Mims for Darnold. I think that's why the Cowboys were able to get a guy like CeeDee Lamb, because the drop off just isn't that vast. You can arguably pass up on those guys and still get your guy or a guy of similar capability that might fit your system a little better. So I like what the Jets did. This looks like it's just a horse race to see who's going to take over and beat the Patriots.
Yeah,
But
man. Go ahead. Go
my
ahead.
bad.
Give me a grade.
I realized. Yeah, I never gave him a grade. I'm gonna give him a B. I'm gonna give him a B.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give him a B as well. I wasn't overly impressed with what the Jets did, but I do think it was solid. And whenever you give a draft grade, you always got to go back in a couple years and revisit it anyway, because a lot of these guys could be bust, and some of them could be even better than we're thinking now. But let's move on to the final team that we're giving a grade to today, the New England Patriots, man. And before we break down their draft, I just want to point out a few things in the AFC East. No team other than the New England Patriots have won the AFC East since 2008. That has been 11 straight years of domination for the New England Patriots. But as we all know, this past season, Tom Brady moved on. He moved on to Tampa Bay. So, looking at the Patriots draft, did they do enough to stay the lead dogs in the AFC East? Do you guys think that with this draft they did enough to keep this stranglehold on the AFC East? Scruff, I'm gonna start with you.
Ultimately, this draft, I was surprised they didn't go with a quarterback. I think maybe they wanted Jalen Hurts and he got picked off the board. I don't know, but I guess my pick, I like the picks, but I just was really shocked they didn't take a quarterback. So unless Jared Stidham is the next Tom Brady, no, they're not going to win the AFC East. I don't see it. I like the picks though. I like Kyle Duggar. I think he's a guy that's perfect for their system, a guy that fits multiple positions. Devin Asiasi, he's a dude that could have potentially been the first tight end off the board. He's definitely a unique player that's perfect for their skill set. They drafted 2 tight ends. New England Patriots draft all day, but not drafting a quarterback, at least to challenge the room, just really has me wondering, even wondering if maybe they're just going to tank for Lawrence or something. I don't know. I don't know what this Jared Stidham dude looked like. I have no idea. He was a fourth rounder last year. They must be really confident in this kid to not even bring in someone to compete with the kid.
T, man, what you think about the Patriots, man?
I'm actually a little high on Stidham, and I think this draft looks ugly, right? There's no flashy names here. Their first pick is a small school guy, but I won't underestimate the
So
Patriots. They're a very cocky organization, and they have every reason to be. And if you look, Belichick and the gang are their defense first, really. They've had the luxury of having Brady, but Belichick's a defensive guy. And what do they do with their first three picks? All defense. And then come back, double dip at tight end. You know, they utilize a lot of tight ends in their offense. And the quarterback situation, I'm not surprised they didn't draft a quarterback. I think that's where we'll see Cam Newton end up. And I think the Patriots will once again be dominant. The Bills might have something to say, but I think that's the perfect landing spot for Cam. I think if that happens, the league has to worry.
gotcha.
All right, Bryce, man, how you feeling about this Patriots draft?
Man, one thing you got to do, man, you got to trust proven entities, man. They say that's what you're supposed to do in the stock game. That's what you should always do when it comes to the Patriots. Sometimes those picks might not look right, but it's the Pats taking them, so you got to trust it. When I run down the picks, I love Kyle Duggar, man. Small school guy, but completely dominated on every level of the small school. If you're gonna go to a small school, you got to return kicks to the house. You got to return punts to the house. You got to return interceptions to the house. You got to return fumbles to the house. Kyle Duggar did all four of those things. Moving down the list, my Anthony Jennings, man. I don't know how he was so underrated coming out of Alabama. I mean, this dude can rush the passer. This dude can play in space. I guess when you come out of a crowded Alabama team, sometimes a couple guys get overlooked. I don't know how it was Anthony Jennings. They went tight end back to back. Who remembers the last time the Patriots drafted two tight ends in a draft? Oh yeah, Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, RIP. But yeah, I mean that's crazy. That's crazy. They go back to back tight ends. You know they up to something. Now let's talk about the tight ends they grabbed. Devin Asiasi, man, this is a guy that was low on most draft boards, but I had him very high. He was in my top 100. I think I had him in the 60s. This guy is a beast, man. 6'3", but when he gets the ball, he gets yak, and he's a very willing blocker. Kind of hard to compare him to anybody in the league right now. If I had to do it, I'd probably lean towards like a Hunter Henry type. But this dude is a problem, man. This dude's a problem. Little background story on him, man. Me and Scruff, we had a little bet over the weekend. We actually came up big on some of these NFL draft bets. But we had one bet: who would be the the first tight end taken off the board? And Devin Asiasi had about 1,500 to 1 odds. And he was one of my favorite players in the draft. So I told Scruff, hey, man, let's go ahead and put some bread on Devin Asiasi. This dude was the second tight end taken. He was second tight end taken. Not only that, the Patriots traded up to get him. So the chance of him being first, it was pretty close. Dalton Keene, anybody watches VTech, you know he was the leader of that entire offense. And that's rare coming from a tight end position. Hey, look, I love what the Patriots did, and I agree with T, man. You can think you've got a shot, but until you dethrone the king, I'm not believing it. The Patriots are the king of the AFC East, and I do believe that will remain in 2020.
Hey, T, man, I believe in Stidham too, dog, but not enough to win the division, bro. Like, if the Patriots are gonna start a quarterback from Auburn, it's got to be my man Cam. They need to call Cam right now if they already haven't. I don't know if they're waiting for quarantine to be over or what, but they need to get on that Cam Newton train if they want to have any hope of winning the division. Scruff, man, I see you shaking your head. What you think about this Cam to the Patriots talk?
You guys are living in la la land, man. Cam's not going to the Patriots. They're not going. He's not. The Patriots are not picking up Cam, and if they were going to do it, here's the thing about Cam and the Patriots: it just doesn't make any sense. First thing is, if they were going to pick up Cam, they would probably have to restructure their offense to fit Cam. And if you're going to restructure your offense, you probably want to get that guy into your system early and then start doing it. You don't pick up a guy that you have to rebuild your system around right before training camp. So I don't see that happening. I think they're locked in with their quarterback room. I don't see them bringing in Cam. I just don't see it.
Do you see them bringing in anyone at all? You think they're gonna roll with the fourth round pick Stidham from Auburn?
I'm telling you, man, Belichick must be smarter than all of us because this kid probably is just. He must be the second coming of Brady because, like I said, they didn't draft a single quarterback, and they could have drafted. They literally could have drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. They didn't pick him. They could have took Jordan Love in the first round. They traded out of the first round altogether. He must know something that we don't know. So let's wait and see.
I mean, look, Patriots are bringing in a guy. Whether it's Cam or not, I don't know. I feel like Cam fits. So difference of opinion there, but the Patriots are bringing in a guy. Stidham won't take that job. Just take over the keys for Brady. That wouldn't even make sense. They're bringing in a guy. I'd bet any amount of money on that.
Well, only time will tell, man. I definitely got to say one thing. As far as their draft, I know, Bryce, you did a great job breaking it down, so this might be a harsh grade, but I got to give it an F, bro. Like, you don't have a starting quarterback on your roster. I'm sorry. Belichick can be smarter than me. He can be smarter than all four of us combined. Stidham ain't a starting quarterback moving into next year until further notice, until he proves that. So you don't have a starting quarterback on your roster, and you don't even draft a quarterback to bring in to challenge the guy. It makes no sense because at best, Stidham definitely needs to be challenged by somebody. So I got to give the draft to F because if you don't have a quarterback in the NFL, you ain't got nothing. I don't care how smart Belichick thinks he is. He had the most clutchest quarterback of all time, really debatable, but one of the most clutch quarterbacks of all time, one of the most clutch athletes of all time in Tom Brady to always help him out. So if you think Stidham is going to come in and lead your team down the field in the fourth quarter in Buffalo, yeah, good luck. That ain't happening. And I'm a Stidham guy. But yeah, man, is there anything else y'all want to get into?
I want to say Josh McDaniels won a playoff game with Tebow, so he can definitely win with Cam.
Facts.
Tebow's a first round pick.
Oh my god.
Oh, man.
Tebow's a first round pick, but I'm just saying, dude has some. He has some sauce to him. I can't tell you much about Jarrett Stidham. I don't know much about his game. It wasn't to me. I'm surprised. Like, I don't even really barely remember him in college, man.
Nah, Jared. Yeah,
I liked him in college.
He wasn't a huge standout at NC State, but I remember him, man. He was solid, man. Jarrett Stidham's got an arm, and he's got. Thing I like about him, he's got some movement to him. He's a bigger quarterback. So maybe not height wise, but definitely strength wise. I like him. Will he be able to lead the Pats? We will see, man. I mean, it's gonna be a good season because you know all these teams really feel like they got a shot this year in the AFC East.
Yeah, definitely.
They got a shot. My money's on the Bills.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be.
My guy sat behind Brady. That's got to count for something.
Yeah, facts. Well, man.
Yeah, when them bright lights hit though, man, I don't know.
I mean, have we seen anybody under Brady just completely fail? Maybe Ryan Mallett. That's the only name I might can think of. Anybody else just go out there and fail?
This is the moment, though. This is the moment, man. This is the moment. All these years, the Patriots been running the division, and it looks like they're their weakest. This is the moment you got to go and you got to take it, especially if you're the Bills or if you're the Jets. Especially the Jets. Jets, man, they talk about their quarterback. People talk about Sam Darnold like he was one of the best quarterback prospects. Came out in the last couple of years. It's do or die time, man. This dude had mono last year. It's time to put in work. It's time to put in work, man.
Big facts. And you got Josh Allen who made the playoffs, man. It's a big year for Sam Darnold coming up. He's got to show and prove.
Josh Allen, I think the Bills are going to win the division. I think it's probably going to be pretty easy too, because Josh Allen, man, this dude has like so much arm that it's just not even enough field to cover this dude, man. And when you got the perfect receiver with Diggs, dude, that's going to go up there and just like you give him the ball, give him the air, put some air under it. He's going to get up under and he's going to catch that thing, man. So I think it's a perfect fit. You got two burners on the outside. You got two young running backs. It's a nice little team.
Don't sleep on Miami. The Dolphins got a nice little secondary to compete with the Bills, man. Don't sleep on Miami. A lot's going to depend on Tua. And I'm not going to say he wins the division first year, but I think Miami's going to make some noise.
I think Miami sits Tua, and not because of injury. I think they sit him because of the quarantine. Play Breida. Let your young linemen learn the game before they start protecting them. But I think they sit them. Play behind a Harvard guy.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy, man. I wonder if Tua's gonna even be ready to rock and roll, man. The division's gonna hinge on that. Because if Tua starting from day one, I think the Dolphins are a better team.
You think they win the division?
Maybe not to win the division, but I know one thing. When you don't know a guy, like, the entire division, they know Ryan Fitzpatrick. They know that game. They know what he brings. But when you don't know what a guy's going to bring to that next level, you don't know exactly what type of quarterback he's going to be, he's a lot harder to game plan for. And I think that's also an edge that the Patriots, I feel like, are going to have this season as well. Because as much as that we're saying about Jarrett Stidham, is all circles around him being unknown. We don't know about him yet. And the Patriots will use that to their advantage because the other teams don't know what to expect with him yet either. They can change things week by week and never really let anybody get a feel for Jarrett Stidham. And that's something I can see the Pats doing. I still got the Patriots winning the division until otherwise.
Same page with you.
Well,
I'm gonna go Bills.
Who you got winning the division?
That might change.
I got the Bills. I got the Bills.